Did you really think a civilization that turns planets into weapons would negotiate? The words echoed across the vast conference chamber aboard the Galactic Empire's flagship. They weren't so much spoken as they were delivered, crisp, cold, and final. The alien delegates, representing dozens of species from across the galaxy, stared in stunned silence. The speaker, a human commander, didn't bother hiding the disdain in his voice. The message was clear: humanity wasn't interested in diplomacy. The Galactic Empire had never encountered humans in combat. In fact, until a few cycles ago, humans had been little more than a curiosity, a minor species from the fringes of known space. Their home world, Earth, was located in an unremarkable system far from the galactic core. They had advanced at a pace that was unremarkable by galactic standards, and their ships were primitive compared to the sleek, advanced technology of the Empire. But what the Empire had failed to consider was that humans had been preparing not for trade, not for peaceful exploration, but for war. The first sign that the Empire had miscalculated was when they detected the human fleet. It appeared almost out of nowhere, materializing on the edge of the Terrace system, an important Imperial stronghold. The ships were massive, hulking things, nothing like the elegant warships of the Empire. They were bristling with weapons, covered in layers of armor, and they moved with a purpose that sent a shiver through every Imperial commander who witnessed it. But it wasn't the ships themselves that caused the most concern, it was what happened when they fired. The first shots were aimed at Taros V, a heavily fortified planet that had withstood countless assaults over the centuries. The Empire had invested immense resources into making it impregnable. Yet, when the human ships opened fire, Taros V was reduced to a molten husk in minutes. The humans had developed a weapon that could bypass the planet's shields, penetrate its crust, and ignite its core. In the following days, the human fleet moved systematically through the Terrace system. They didn't engage in lengthy battles, they didn't bother with tactics that other species might have considered honorable or fair. They simply obliterated every target in their path with brutal efficiency. The Empire's response was swift but ineffective. They dispatched fleet after fleet to counter the human threat, but each time they were met with overwhelming force. The humans seemed to have an endless supply of ships, each more powerful than the last. And every time the Empire thought they had found a weakness, the humans adapted, evolved, and came back stronger. And so, as the Galactic Empire scrambled to regroup, to find some way to counter this new and terrifying threat, they did the only thing they knew how to do: they called for a ceasefire, hoping to buy time. The humans, however, had no intention of stopping. "We warned you," the human commander continued, his gaze sweeping across the room. "You should have listened." The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their various forms fidgeting nervously. They were unused to such bluntness, such raw hostility. Negotiations in the Galactic Council were typically conducted with flowery language, subtle threats, and veiled promises. But the humans had bypassed all of that. Their message was simple and unambiguous: "Your empire has dominated this galaxy for millennia," the commander said. "You've crushed civilizations, enslaved entire species, and ruled through fear. But now your time is over." There was a murmur of protest from one of the delegates, a reptilian being whose scales glimmered in the dim light. "You cannot simply," the commander cut him off with a sharp wave of his hand. "We can, and we will. Your empire never prepared for a war with us because you assumed we were beneath you. That was your mistake." The room fell silent again, the weight of the word sinking in. The Galactic Empire had always prided itself on its superiority, on its ability to control and dominate. But now, faced with an enemy that did not play by the same rules, that superiority was crumbling. "Let me make this clear," the commander said, his voice dropping to a dangerous tone. "This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a warning. This is your last chance. Surrender, or face extinction." With that, the transmission ended, and the humans' ultimatum hung in the air like a dark cloud. The delegates were left in stunned silence, their minds racing to comprehend the gravity of the situation. They had never encountered an enemy like this before, an enemy that did not seek territory, resources, or even power, but rather seemed driven by something far more primal and terrifying: the need to destroy. Outside the flagship, the human fleet loomed in the darkness of space, a silent reminder of the fate that awaited the Empire should they refuse the offer on the table. But deep within the Empire's core, in the darkened war rooms where strategy and decisions were made, the counselors and military leaders were already discussing their next move. Surrender was not an option. The pride of the Empire would not allow it. And so, with heavy hearts and determined minds, they began to plan for the inevitable confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The Galactic Empire had never engaged humans in battle, but they were about to learn, far too late, that some enemies could not be reasoned with. The humans had warned them, perish. And they meant it. The silence in the Galactic Empire's war room was oppressive. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing the positions of the human fleet as it advanced through the Empire's territory. The once proud Imperial Armada, the most powerful force in the galaxy, had been reduced to scattered remnants, fleeing before the onslaught. Admiral Rax, the most seasoned strategist in the Empire, stood at the center of the room. His mind raced as he studied the reports flooding in from the front lines. Every tactic, every maneuver they had attempted, had failed. The humans weren't just winning, they were dismantling the Empire piece by piece. "This is unprecedented," said General Koth, his voice tinged with disbelief. His scales, usually a deep crimson, had taken on a paler hue, an involuntary response to the stress. How did they develop such technology without us knowing? How did they become this powerful so quickly? "It's not just their technology," Rax replied, his eyes fixed on the holographic map. "It's their strategy. They don't fight like anyone we've encountered before. They don't care about losses, don't concern themselves with the rules of engagement. They are focused on one thing, destruction." He paused, his gaze narrowing as he considered their options. The Empire had faced many threats over the millennia, from marauding species to rogue AIS, but nothing like this. The humans were relentless, and they were close to reaching the core systems, the heart of the Empire. "What's our next move?" Koth asked, though he already knew there were few options left. "We need to slow them down," Rax said, his voice grim. "We can't let them reach the core. If they break through there, it's over." "We've tried that," Koth's frustration boiled over. "Every time we throw a fleet at them, they are torn apart before they can even close the distance. We've lost Tarus, Gore, and Mantar, all within days. They are like a force of nature." Rax turned away from the map, his expression hardening. "Then we need to change the battlefield. We can't fight them head-on, not like this. We need to lure them into a trap, somewhere they can't simply obliterate from a distance." Koth blinked, considering the suggestion. "A trap? But where? And with what forces? We've lost so many already." "There's one place they haven't reached yet," Rax said, a flicker of hope lighting in his eyes. "The Shattered Belt." The Shattered Belt was a region of space filled with the debris of long-dead planets, asteroid fields, and ancient derelict stations. It was a graveyard, a place where even the most advanced navigation systems struggled to function. Ships that ventured into the belt often didn't return, lost to the chaotic gravitational fields and hidden dangers lurking within the dense fields of rock and metal. Koth's eyes widened as he realized what Rax was suggesting. "You want to draw them into the belt? That's madness. We could lose our entire fleet in there." "We've already lost our fleets," Koth, Rax countered. "If we don't stop them now, we'll lose everything. But in the belt, we have the advantage. Their weapons are powerful, but they're designed for open space engagements. In the belt, their firepower will be less effective. We can use the environment against them, force them into close quarters where we might stand a chance." Koth hesitated, his mind racing through the possibilities. It was a desperate plan, one that could easily backfire. But they were out of options, and the alternative was certain defeat. "Very well," Koth said finally, "but we need to prepare carefully. One mistake, and the belt will be our graveyard, not theirs." Rax nodded, already turning to the displays to coordinate the plan. "We'll need to evacuate the remaining civilians from the nearby systems. If the humans figure out what we're doing too soon, they'll bypass the trap and strike at our core directly." Hours turned into days as the Empire scrambled to enact Rax's plan. The human fleet continued its relentless march, system after system falling under their might. But as they approached the shattered belt, the Empire began to show signs of renewed resistance. Scattered reports of skirmishes and hit-and-run tactics reached the humans, suggesting that the Empire was regrouping for a final stand. The trap was set. The question remained, would the humans fall for it?